Hey, friend, can I ask you something? Have you ever felt like you're doing everything you know to do, praying, reading your Bible, maybe even going to counseling, but you still feel stuck? Like something invisible is holding you back, but you can't quite name what it is. Maybe you've told yourself, I just need more faith, or I need to try harder, or maybe I'm the problem. And so you keep pushing, keep performing, keep hoping that one day something will finally click and you'll feel close to God again. Here's what I've discovered after years of walking this path myself and walking alongside so many women just like you. Healing from religious trauma isn't about trying harder. It's not about having more faith. It's definitely not about you being the problem. It's about having a path. Because, sweet friend, you can't heal what you can't name, and you can't walk somewhere if you don't know the way. Today, I'm starting a brand new series, a 5-part journey through the phases of healing from what I call the inner aftershocks of religious trauma. This first episode is going to lay the foundation. I'll share with you how religious trauma actually forms, why it keeps us stuck, and I'll give you an overview of the 5 phases that can take you from where you are right now to lasting permanent healing. So settle in and let's talk about why there really is a path home and what it looks like to walk it. Welcome to Healing Religious Trauma, the podcast for Christian women ready to heal without losing their faith. If you're feeling the weight of spiritual pressure and distant from the God you used to trust, you're in the right place. I'm Debra Schaefer, spiritual healing coach, founder of the Healing Religious Trauma Circle, and someone who's walked the hard road of untangling toxic faith. If you're ready to make sense of your story, find peace with a safe, loving God, and hear stories that remind you you're not alone, grab your tea, toss the rule book, and let's go. Hey, before we dive in, I want to make sure you know about a couple of things. First, if you're wondering which hidden barriers might be running the show in your life, I have a free quiz at religiostraumaquiz.com. You'll get clarity on what's been keeping you stuck, plus my Essential Starters Kit, that's my book, mini course, live reading circles, and access to our community completely free. That's your starting point. And if you've been listening for a while and you've been thinking about joining the Coming Home journey, I just want you to know that the founder pricing ends January 1st. That means this is your last month to join at half the investment. It will be next year. There are payment plans available, and if you want to talk it through, email me. I'm offering personal calls this month for anyone trying to decide if it's the right fit. More on that later. For now, go to religiostraumaquiz.com and find out what's been keeping you stuck. You know, I want to share something with you today that I don't talk about very often. Because for a long time, I didn't even realize it was part of my story. When I first started coaching women, I was working with women going through all kinds of difficult life experiences: divorce, grief, loss, and other traumas. And I noticed something interesting. No matter what we started talking about, we always seemed to end up in the same place: their relationship with God and their religious experiences. And here's what I discovered. Every single one of these women had some kind of misconception or false belief about who God really is and who He isn't. They loved Him, but some were afraid of Him. They wanted to trust Him, but something kept getting in their way. Sound familiar? It certainly did to me, because as I dove deeper into their stories, I started recognizing my own. I had my own religious trauma, my own false beliefs, my own invisible barriers that I didn't even know were there. Now here's where it gets interesting. I had gotten several coaching certifications. I'd learned all these methods and structures from other people, and I tried so hard to follow them. But honestly, I felt frustrated, lost even. I was spending so much time in prep for calls, trying to lay everything out, trying to follow someone else's framework, and it just wasn't working. And then one day, God whispered something to me. He said, "Trust me. I'm the only one who actually knows the present need of each one of your clients. Put all this other stuff aside. Pray a simple prayer before you get started, and I'll get you results." So, I let go of everything I had learned. Seriously, all of it. I started praying for just a minute before each call. I started praying with my clients, which I'd never done before. And friend, amazing results began to happen. My clients would say things like, "How did you know?" And I always gave God the credit because honestly, I didn't know. He did. And here's the thing. I didn't realize I was actually following a method. I thought I was just winging it, flying by the seat of my pants. Until one day, I was on a call with my mentor, and I was telling her about this amazing coaching session I had just had. Several hours long, incredible breakthroughs, life-changing results for my client. And she said something that stopped me in my tracks. She said, "Debra, you need to write down your method. Write down the process you're using." And I laughed. I said, "What process? What method? I don't have one. I just wing it." And she said, "Of course you have a process. Pay attention and you'll see it." So I started paying attention. And over the next few weeks, I began to notice I was indeed leading women from start to finish along a certain path. It was the path God had led me down. But I had never thought of it as a method or a process before. I didn't think it counted as anything, really. I told my ministry partner about what my mentor had said, and he agreed with her. He said, "Of course you have a method." And then, one morning, I woke up, and in 30 minutes, I wrote the entire outline for what would become the coming home journey. All 12 milestones. The whole path. It just poured out of me. I called my partner immediately and read him everything. And he said, "This is brilliant." And I said, "I can't take credit for it because God gave it to me, just as clear as day." Well, that was over 3 years ago. And since then, that outline has grown into my life's work. A complete healing path with language I can finally share with others. And as I kept using this framework, I began to see that healing actually happens in phases. There are distinct stages that women move through. And then I layered these 5 phases over the coming home journey. I started seeing faster breakthroughs, more lasting change, and women who didn't just feel better for a little while, they were permanently transformed. So, sweet friend, if you've been trying to heal on your own, praying, reading, maybe even going to therapy, and you still feel stuck, I want you to hear this. You're not the problem. You just didn't have the path. And today, I want to show you what that path looks like. Before we walk through the 5 stages of healing, I think it's important to understand how we got here in the first place. Because religious trauma doesn't usually happen in one big, dramatic moment. For most of us, it happens slowly, quietly, often through people who genuinely loved us, but were operating from their own wounded places. Here's what I mean. Religious trauma happens when spiritual beliefs, practices, or experiences cause psychological, emotional, or even physical harm. And it doesn't have to be extreme. It's often the subtle, persistent messages we receive over and over again. Messages that shaped how we see God, how we see ourselves, and how we see our place in the world. Maybe you were taught that your questions were dangerous, that doubting meant you didn't have enough faith, that your emotions were too much, too messy, too inconvenient. Maybe you learned that silence equals obedience, that your needs don't matter, that you have to earn God's love through performance and perfection. And over time, these messages became beliefs. And those beliefs became barriers, invisible patterns that run in the background of your life, shaping every prayer you pray, every relationship you have, every step you take toward God. These are what I call the 12 hidden barriers of religious trauma. And when they're running the show, they make you feel things like invisible, not enough, bad, unsafe, unlovable, like you don't matter, like something is fundamentally wrong with you. But here's the truth. Those beliefs were installed. They're not who you are. They're what happened to you. And if a belief can be installed, it can also be uninstalled. It can be dissolved. It can be replaced with the truth of who God really is and who you really are to Him. That's what healing is, and that's exactly what these 5 phases are designed to do. The first phase of healing is what I call preparing the soil. Think about it this way. If you want to plant a garden, you wouldn't just throw seeds on a hard, rocky ground and hope for the best, right? You'd prepare the soil first. You'd make sure it was ready to receive what you were about to plant. Healing works the same way. Before any real transformation can happen, you have to feel safe. Not just physically safe, but emotionally safe, spiritually safe. Safe enough to be honest. Safe enough to ask questions. Safe enough to be messy and imperfect and still know you're loved and welcome. For so many of us, the places where we should have felt safest, our churches, our families, our faith communities, were actually the places where we learned to hide. We learned that vulnerability was dangerous, that honesty had consequences, that belonging required performing. So, phase 1 is about preparing different soil. It's about establishing trust. It's about making agreements with yourself, with God, and if you're in a program like the Coming Home Journey, with a community of women who are walking the same path. This phase answers the question, am I safe here? Can I really be myself? And until that question is answered with a deep, settled yes, nothing else can take root. Safety first, always. Psalm 91 says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty." That's what this phase is about, finding that shelter. Once the soil's prepared, the second phase is planting seeds of hope. Now, this might surprise you because when you're in the middle of pain, the last thing you feel like doing is dreaming about the future. You're just trying to survive the day. But here's what I've learned. Healing isn't just about moving away from something painful. It's about moving toward something beautiful. In this phase, we connect to your God-given desires, the longings you've buried because they felt too selfish, the dreams you've dismissed because you didn't think you deserved them, the woman you sense you could become if all those barriers weren't in the way. For many women with religious trauma, desire itself feels dangerous. We were taught that wanting things for ourselves was worldly, selfish, unspiritual. But God designed you with specific desires for a reason. They're clues to your calling. They're whispers of who you're meant to become. They're seeds waiting to grow. Psalm 37 tells us to delight ourselves in the Lord, and He will give us the desires of our heart. Those desires aren't accidents, friend. They're invitations. Phase 2 answers the question, who am I becoming? What is God inviting me into? And when you can see that vision, I mean really see it, suddenly you have something to grow toward. Not just pain to escape, but purpose to embrace. Phase 3 is where we start seeing what's been blocking the light. This is clearing the overgrowth. You know how in an untended garden things start to grow wild? Vines wrap around everything, overgrowth blocks the sunlight, and the plants that were meant to thrive can't get what they need. That's what happens with religious trauma. Those invisible beliefs I mentioned earlier, the ones that make you feel invisible, not enough, bad, unsafe, unlovable, they've been growing unchecked for years. And they've created this overgrowth that's blocking the light of truth from reaching your heart. In this phase, we bring those patterns into the light. We see them. We understand how they've been operating in your life, often without you even realizing it. This isn't about blame. It's not about pointing fingers at the people who hurt you. It's about awareness. It's about finally being able to see what's been blocking your growth. Because here's the truth. You can't heal what you can't name. Jesus said in John 8, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." That's what naming does. It brings truth into the light, so freedom can follow. Phase 3 gives you the clarity. It helps you see what needs to be cleared. And once you can see it, once you can name it, everything starts to shift. This phase answers the question, what's been blocking my growth? And sweet friend, when you finally see that overgrowth for what it is, not character flaws, not spiritual weakness, but trauma responses that grew up around you to help you survive, compassion rushes in where shame used to live. Phase 4 is where the deep transformation happens. This is cultivating the truth. Now, I want to be clear about something. This isn't just about understanding your barriers intellectually. It's not about knowing that you feel invisible or not enough, and then trying harder to feel different. This is about seed-level transformation, going to the very root of these beliefs and cultivating something new in their place. Romans 12 says, to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's exactly what we're going to do here, renewing what you believe at the deepest level. In this phase, we discover what I call the deeper, more accurate truth. The truth about who God really is and who you really are to Him. Not the version you were taught to fear, the real God who's been loving you all along. Think of it like this. Where the overgrowth used to be, we're now intentionally planting and nurturing truth. We're cultivating it, tending it, giving it what it needs to grow strong. And when that deeper truth lands, really lands, not just in your head, but in your heart and in your bones, something transformative happens. The old story loses its power, and the new story begins to form. This phase answers the question, what's actually true about me? And the answer is always more beautiful than the lies you've been believing. The final phase is what I call growing your wings. And this is where breakthrough becomes your everyday life. Think about what happens when a butterfly first emerges from the chrysalis. She's transformed, completely new, but her wings are still wet and fragile. She can't fly yet. She needs time to strengthen those wings, to practice using them, to build the capacity to actually live as the butterfly she's become. That's exactly what Phase 5 is about. It's one thing to have a powerful moment of insight, to feel something shift inside you, to finally see the truth. And it's another thing to live from that truth every single day. Phase 5 is where you grow your wings, building the new habits, new mindsets, new ways of being that allow you to actually fly. This takes time. It takes practice. It takes showing up even when it's hard. This is where you learn to set boundaries without guilt, speak up without fear, rest without shame, love yourself without apology. This phase answers the question, how do I live as this new woman? And the answer unfolds over time, through patience, through community, through consistent small steps that eventually become your new normal. Because, friend, the butterfly doesn't learn to fly immediately, and neither will you. But with support, with persistence, with grace for the stumbles, you will fly. You were made to. And Philippians 1:6 promises that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. He's not leaving you halfway, friend. He finishes what he starts. So there you have it, the 5 phases of healing from the inner aftershocks of religious trauma. Phase 1, preparing the soil, where you establish trust and safety. Phase 2, planting seeds of hope, where you connect to your God-given desires and who you're becoming. Phase 3, clearing the overgrowth, where you see what's been blocking your growth. Phase 4, cultivating the truth, where you experience seed-level transformation and replace lies with truth. Phase 5, growing your wings, where breakthrough becomes your embodied everyday reality. Now, here's what I want you to know. You don't have to have this all figured out. You don't have to see the whole path before you take the first step. You just have to know that the path exists. And sweet friend, it does. God didn't just save you. He wants to heal you. He wants to bring you home to himself, to yourself, and to the woman you were always meant to become. So here's your simple win for this week. I want you to just sit with this question. Which phase do you think you might be in right now? Are you still preparing the soil, trying to find safety? Are you longing to plant seeds of hope? Are you starting to see the overgrowth you couldn't name before? There's no wrong answer here, just awareness, just noticing. Over the next 5 episodes, we're going to dive deep into each of these phases. I'll walk you through what each one looks like, what it feels like, and how you can start taking steps forward, no matter where you are right now. Remember what I said earlier? I didn't know I had a method until someone told me to pay attention. And now I'm telling you there's a path, and you don't have to find it alone. A great place to start is with the quiz at religiostraumaquiz.com. It's free, takes just a few minutes, and you'll get my essential starter kit. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while and are thinking maybe the coming home journey is for me, I want you to know founder pricing ends January 1st. This is the last month to join at half the investment. After December, it doubles. There are payment plans if you need them. Go to thecominghomejourney.com to learn more. And if you're not sure, if you're wondering whether we'd be a good fit, email me. I'm doing personal calls this month to help you decide. No sales pitch here, just an honest conversation. This is your moment, friend. Email me at debra@healingreligionstrauma.org and let's jump on a call. Hey friend, if this episode stirred something in your heart, if it made you feel a little less alone and a little more hopeful, would you share it with someone who needs to hear it too? And if you're willing, a quick review on Apple Podcasts helps more women find their way here. Next week, we're diving into Phase 1, preparing the soil. I'll share why safety has to come first, what it actually means to feel spiritually safe, and how you can start preparing the ground for your own healing, even if you've never felt safe in faith spaces before. Until then, remember, you're not too sensitive, you're not broken, and you're definitely not alone. Keep asking questions, keep seeking truth, and keep believing that healing is possible. Because it is. I promise you, it is. I'll see you next time.